In November 1969, someone mailed the San Francisco Chronicle 340 characters of nonsense. Symbols, backwards letters, little circles and triangles. The FBI worked on it. Navy codebreakers worked on it. Amateur cryptographers spent entire careers on it. And for 50 years, nobody could read a single word of it.
And it stayed unsolved so long that it grew its own community around it. People who had never met, trading theories across decades, some of them working on that one page until they died, without ever seeing it broken.
It finally gave way in December of 2020. 3 men working together, a software developer in Virginia, a mathematician in Australia, and a programmer in Belgium. Not a government agency, not a task force. 3 hobbyists who found each other on the internet.
The trick was that he had not simply swapped symbols for letters. He had scrambled a reading order on top of that in a diagonal pattern, so even a perfectly correct decryption still came out looking like gibberish. That second layer is what defeated everyone.
And after 51 years of work, what it actually said was that he was not afraid of the gas chamber, and that he was enjoying himself enormously. That was the whole message. No name, no address, no location, nothing anybody could act on.
Half a century of effort for a taunt, which, if you have followed this case at all, is exactly the payoff he would have designed.
A few months before that, he had sent a different cipher, cut into 3 pieces, one to each of 3 Bay Area newspapers. And this time he attached a demand, print on the front page, or he would go out that weekend and kill a dozen people.
All 3 papers printed it. That decision is worth sitting with on its own because it is the first moment the press agreed to his terms, and he learned that the threat worked.
He also claimed, in writing, that his identity was hidden inside that cipher. So every police department and federal agency in California put people on it, and so did an enormous number of ordinary readers who had just been handed a puzzle over breakfast.
It was cracked in about a week. Not by the FBI, not by the Navy, by a high school history teacher in Salinas named Donald Hardin and his wife Betty, working on it at their kitchen table over a weekend.
Betty guessed he was arrogant enough to open with the word I, and that the word kill would almost certainly appear more than once. Those 2 assumptions were the wedge that split it open. Neither of them had any cryptographic training whatsoever.
And when they finished, the message turned out to be a long boast about killing being the greatest thrill he knew. His identity was not in there anywhere. He had simply lied about it to get himself onto the front page.
Just after midnight on the 4th of July, 1969, 2 people were shot in a parked car at a golf course in Vallejo. Darlene Farron died at the scene. Michael Mageau, shot in the face and the neck, survived it and was able to talk to investigators.
Roughly 40 minutes later, the Vallejo police switchboard took a call. A man's voice, completely calm, reporting the shooting and giving the location before anyone had phoned it in.
Then he told them he was also responsible for 2 teenagers killed on Lake Herman Road 7 months earlier, a case that was still unsolved and that almost nobody outside that one department was actively thinking about anymore.
He linked the 2 attacks himself. The police had not connected them. He phoned in and did the work for them, which is the precise opposite of what a man trying to get away with something does.
And that is what the entire case turns on. He was not hiding. He was building a reputation, and a reputation needs an audience. So he kept handing investigators evidence they did not have and could not have got any other way.
Every letter, every cipher, every phone call was a risk he had no need to take. He took all of them anyway because being unknown was never the goal. Being famous was, and those are not the same thing.
On the 11th of October, 1969, a cab driver named Paul Stein picked up a fare in downtown San Francisco and drove him up to Presidio Heights. He was shot in the head at the corner of Washington and Cherry in a quiet residential neighborhood.
Teenagers across the street watched it happen from a second-floor window and called the police while the man was still at the cab, going through it. That call went out within a minute or 2.
Patrol cars were rolling almost immediately. This is the closest anyone ever came to him. There were officers on those streets while he was still on foot, walking away from the car, somewhere inside a few blocks.
And one of them, an officer named Don Falk, passed a white man walking on Jackson Street. He did not stop him, and he kept driving.
Because the description going out over the radio said the suspect they were looking for was a black man, a dispatcher had made an error relaying it, and that one wrong word meant the officer who may have been looking directly at him had every professional reason to believe he was looking at the wrong person entirely.
Zodiac wrote to the newspapers afterwards specifically to bring it up. He knew a patrol car had gone past him that night, and he could not stand to let it go unmentioned. Even his near misses had to become part of the legend.
In September 1969, two college students were sitting out on a spit of land at Lake Berryessa when a man walked up to them, wearing a black hood pulled over his head, with a white symbol stitched on the chest, a circle with a cross drawn through it.
A crosshair, the exact symbol he signed his letters with, so none of this was improvised. He made a costume at home and carried it out there before he ever saw who he was going to use it on.
Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were tied up and stabbed. Hartnell survived his injuries. Shepard did not. And before he left, he walked over to their parked car and wrote the dates of his previous attacks on the door in black marker.
Which is a man signing his own work at the scene. He is not fleeing. He is finishing a presentation, and he wants the next people who arrive to understand immediately who they are dealing with.
And the hood is the strangest detail in the whole case. Two of his other attacks happened in the dark, in parked cars at night, where a disguise would have accomplished nothing at all, and one happened in the middle of a city where wearing it would have been absurd.
He put it on exactly once, in daylight, in front of two people he had already decided to leave alive. The costume was never for hiding. It was for them to describe afterward.
5 people are confirmed killed, and 2 more survived and gave descriptions. He wrote to the newspapers claiming 37 victims, a number no serious investigator has ever accepted, and one he never supported with a single detail anybody could check.
Inflating the count costs him nothing and makes him bigger. It is the same instinct as claiming his name was in a cipher when it was not. If you cannot be caught, you can be whatever size you say you are.
The case has never been closed. Suspects have come and gone for more than 50 years. The most frequently named of them, a man called Arthur Lee Allen, was investigated for decades and died in 1992 without ever being charged with anything.
And testing done on the letters afterward did not tie him to them. The evidence itself is disputed because the envelopes were handled by dozens of people before anyone thought about preserving them, so it settles less than either side wants.
There is a real possibility the answer is simply boring. That he was somebody with no criminal record who stopped or moved away or died in the early 70s, and no amount of investigation would ever have surfaced a name. What we're left with is what he wrote. 2 ciphers solved decades apart, both promising something and delivering nothing.
Nothing but the sound of a man enjoying his own reputation. He wanted to be famous more than he wanted to be known, and 50 years later, that is exactly the deal he got.